want to respect everybody's time, and then I'm sure more people will be joining us as we go. But I want to welcome everybody to the Know Before You Go Bike Anywhere Day webinar. My name's Kalisa Bowling, Senior Regional Planner at SANDAG. That's the San Diego Association of Governments, and we're your regional planning agency. So we appreciate you joining us today. This class is designed to help you be prepared for Bike Anywhere Day coming up on May 15th, and also to help teach you the rules of the road and help you feel prepared for biking any day that you choose. So this Bike Anywhere Day and this class is part of our Sustainable Transportation Services. These services are aimed at encouraging people to choose more sustainable transportation options. And by doing so, you'll be reducing congestion and greenhouse gases in the region. So Bike Anywhere Day is our annual event. It's encouraging everybody, whether it's a student, employee, to get out on a bike, replace a car trip with a bike trip. And we have over 100 pit stops throughout the region, which I'll be talking about in a moment. But if you have not registered, we encourage you to do so. You can go to sandag.org/bike day, or you can scan this QR code here. We do encourage you to sign up ahead of time so you'll receive all the event communication leading up to the day. You'll also, by registering, be automatically entered to win one of 3 e-bikes powered by Rad Power Bikes. So encourage you to sign up ahead of time, but if for some reason you're unable to, you can also there's registration the day of as well on May 15th. So just want to note that this year the pit stops will be open from 6:30 to 9:30 a.m. That's a slightly different time than last year. Last year, I believe it was 7 to 10. So we will be open bright and early from 6:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. on Thursday, May 15th. And last year we had over 9,000 people. This year we're hoping for 10,000 pit stop visits. So we hope you'll join us. So here you can see this is our Bike Anywhere Day t-shirt design. It's a great color. You can stop at any one of these pit stops to receive a t-shirt. We have a variety of sizes at each of the stops. And if you go to sandag.org/bike month, then you can view the pit stop map. You'll see it shows all of the different pit stops around the region and gives a description of what you can expect at these stops. So every stop will have the t-shirts and refreshments, and then some of the stops have additional fun activities and music and costumes. So you can check out this map and see what is planned. So again, this is on our website. If you view this map if you have a smartphone, you can view this map and from the website, and then there's a button in the corner where you can open it up into your Google Maps. So this will allow you to plan your route the day of and be able to see the pit stops at the same time. So it might be something that you want to do is to load up the pit stop map onto your Google Maps. Again, all the descriptions are on this map. And another thing we have on our website at sandag.org/bike month is business promotions. So I think that's our next slide. We have a number of businesses that are offering promotions to people that arrive by bike. So we encourage you to check this out. There's businesses across the region. And this isn't just on Bike Anywhere Day. This is for the whole month of May. These businesses are offering a variety of discounts to people that show up on bikes. We also have other Bike Month activities posted here. We just had the big Bike Month kickoff ride and event yesterday that the Bike Coalition hosted. So we have more fun events that are happening around the region through the whole month of May. So we hope you'll check out the website and join us on Bike Anywhere Day and in May. So I think that was all the slides that I was going to cover about the event. We have staff that are going to stay on and answer any questions about it that you may have at the end. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kevin Barras with the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition, who's going to be teaching the rest of this class. Take it away, Kevin.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thank you to familiar names and faces I see in the crowd. Thanks for being here, Coronado folks. So as Lisa said, Bike to Work Day is coming up, Bike Anywhere Day is coming up. It doesn't have to just be to work. But May is Bike Month, and frankly, any day can be Bike Anywhere Day. But for this one, I did want to speak from the point of view of, all right, I don't often ride my bike. I'm planning on riding my bike. I'm going to be doing it on Bike Anywhere Day. What are the basic things I need to know? To start off, I'm Mr. Kevin. Everyone say hi, Mr. Kevin. Hi, Mr. Kevin. I work for the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition. I have done so for nearly a decade now. We're getting there. I teach these types of bike classes all across the county, thanks to SANDAG and other organizations. I go to a lot of different places, and I'd love to come to your specific workplace at some point and talk to your employees about getting around by bike and best ways to do that. When I do teach these classes, and there's many different types, some focus on e-bikes and some focus on commuting and other things, these are the questions I get the most. So things like, where should I ride? Things like, what are the rules of the road? Things are like, what are specific signs and signals that are specific to bicycles that I should know about or look out for? Route planning, Cleese has touched on this a little bit, but we'll go into some more details about planning your route for Bike Anywhere Day. And then finally, where am I going to put my bike? Will the bike be there when I get back? Is a popular concern for folks. So I'll go through these. This is essentially an abridged or I guess a combination of a couple of the other types of classes that we teach. I would encourage you to view this as your introduction to the topic. And if you want to learn more, there's more information on our website. SANDAG has information about getting specific classes in your workplace or at your children's school. We have 3-hour classes and other things. So this is just the introduction to the topic, but we're going to get through a lot. So to start out, let's jump right into specific rules of the road. My sort of word for the day, today's magic word is predictability. 6 syllables, predictability. It's a big one. Even if you didn't know any rules of the road, if you were acting in a manner which was predictable, then that would be better for everybody. If you act in a way that makes it easier for other people to understand what you're going to do before you do it, that's a good thing for everybody. So rules of the road apply to users of the road, and those users of the road are sometimes in delivery trucks, sometimes they're in buses, sometimes they're in cars, sometimes they're in taxi, Lyft, Uber, sometimes they're on bikes, sometimes they're on e-bikes, rollerblades, roller skates, whatever. If you're using the road, then the rules of the road are for you. They're generally the same for all users of the road. Things like stopping at stop signs, things like ceasing forward motion at the line before continuing. I guess that's technically what a stop sign means. The important thing that I want folks to remember from all this is I can quote a whole bunch of different vehicle codes to you and specific rules of the road. That said, it's important to remember that the real world is the real world. And the real world isn't always comprised of people who are doing the right thing all the time. So if I tell you specific vehicle codes and then you go out into the world expecting those to be the way things are in real life, that's not always the case. So I'll talk about what to expect, how to make it easier for other people to expect those things from you. But remember that not every car comes to a full and complete stop at every single stop sign. Not every person on a bike comes to a full and complete stop at every single stop sign. Both of those people are supposed to. But remember that this is the real world. And so we need to continue to be aware of other people around us. Communicating, being predictable, those are all things that can help. So stop signs and stoplights are for all road users. First come, first served is a concept that applies to all road users, regardless of whether you're in a car or driving a bicycle. And then passing people on the left, and if slower traffic should be to the right, is a concept that's true for cars and a concept that's true for bicycles. However, it's possible to be too far to the right. So a car driver basically just has the option of one lane or another lane, whereas a bike driver has options within the specific lane that they choose. Opportunity for audience participation. I bet you didn't know that that was going to happen. Fingers on keyboards. I'd love just a couple answers to this sort of basic question. I know that this image is fairly low resolution, but if you're riding your bicycle and you're doing so, and this is the street that you have in front of you, just most basic answer, what are some things that you notice about this street? What are some things that you're going to be paying attention to if you're riding your bike on this street? What are some things that stand out to you? I'd love just 1 or 2 answers from the audience, and we'll take those and sort of run with them. So my question is, you're riding a bike. This is the street that you have in front of you. What are some things that stand out to you? What are some things that you notice? What are some things that are highlighted? I'll keep repeating myself until I get 1 or 2 answers in the chat. This is the road. What are you looking for in this road? Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Cheyenne. Cheyenne says no bike lane. So that's the first thing that I notice, and it's sort of an easy thing to gloss over, but there is no dedicated bike infrastructure on this lane. I don't see a bike path. I don't see a bike lane. I don't see a bike route. I don't see a cycle track. I don't see anything specific to bicycles here. Okay, so that's one of the first things I notice. Thank you, Dakota, and thank you, Carly. Carly and Cheyenne and Tim all highlighted what I hope is a fairly obvious answer, which is the open car door. So there is street parking. With street parking comes open doors. There's a law that as a car driver, it's illegal to open your car door unless it's safe to open your car door. That said, not everybody looks behind them before they open the door, and so you as a bike driver allowing for that space is probably a good thing, giving yourself space to avoid that car door. But I'll go into more detail on that in just a second. Open door, stop signs, another one. Great, yes. So this is an intersection where you're going to find a stop sign. Coming to a 100% full and complete stop at every single stop sign is what the law says you should do. Risk of car doors, right? Yeah, so this is because it's an intersection. We got traffic moving across the intersection. It's a fairly wide intersection. We've got what looks to be sort of a shoulder or like a green space in between the 2 lanes. So it's going to be a wide intersection for people going across. Take them a long time to go across. It's going to be uphill. It's hard to see, but it's going to start to go uphill. Even on an e-bike, I'm probably going to get slowed down a little bit if I'm on a bicycle. I want to be aware of that. So one of the things that I'm thinking about with all of that information in my brain is, where am I putting myself in this lane? So I have some options. So let's start on one end of the spectrum and work our way over. One option is the sidewalk. I plan on riding my bike to work. I don't like riding on the street, so I'm just going to ride on the sidewalk. There are some specific laws when it comes to doing this. It's illegal to ride your bike on the sidewalk in business districts. Therefore, technically legal to ride your bike on the sidewalk in residential areas. However, not something I ever recommend. Every driveway is an intersection. Every driveway is a place where cars and bikes are going to be interacting. No one's expecting you to be moving at that speed on the sidewalk. Every intersection is an intersection. You're competing with pedestrians and much slower moving traffic. The thing I use as sort of a rule of thumb is generally you're going to want to place yourself closer to where you're moving at the same speed as other traffic around you. So that's one end of that spectrum is like, okay, I don't want to ride my bike where everyone's going 50 miles an hour all the time. And the other end of the spectrum is I don't want to ride my bike where everybody's walking at 2 or 3 miles all the time. I need to find the place to put myself that makes it so that I'm moving at the same speed relative to people around me. So can you walk your bike on the sidewalk? Absolutely. And that's absolutely something that I've done when there's construction, when there's a bunch of freeway on-ramps, when there's a big hill, a bunch of different reasons. You're absolutely allowed to become a pedestrian, and then you have all the same rights and responsibilities that a pedestrian has. Car drivers are required to yield to pedestrians at intersections. So in theory, that's an option. It's obviously much slower than riding your bike. So we say, okay, we don't want to walk our bike. We want to ride our bike, and we're going to ride our bike as far to the right as possible. If we're riding our bike as far to the right as possible, then we're next to the curb, we're around the car, we're next to the curb, we're around the car. Again, then we're around the door, and then we're back to the curb, and then around the car, and then back to the curb and around the car. I'm unpredictable. It's hard for people to know what to expect from me next. I'm frankly invisible when I'm in between the 2 parked cars. And I've heard that before, the argument that, well, you should ride your bike as though you're invisible. And the issue with that is if you act like you're invisible, you're absolutely going to be treated like you're invisible. You're unpredictable, you're not visible. So I would recommend putting yourself in a position that allows you to ride in a straight line. Now, the issue here is, although I'm predictable, as long as I'm in this straight line, if I'm riding right next to where the parked cars are, I think obviously you can see, I can't always tell right before a car door opens. Some people say, oh, well, I'll look in the back seat to see if I see anybody's head or something. That doesn't always work. Windows are tinted, whatever else. my understanding is that it's not striking the car door that oftentimes causes the injury or causes the problem. It's the suddenly swerving out into traffic to avoid the door that's opening in front of you that can cause the problem a lot of the times. So I want to avoid having to deal with that situation in the first place. And so now I'm going to take this line, which is just outside the edge of where the car door is. It's in a straight line. So I'm predictable. I don't have to worry about the car door. And this is absolutely still wrong. In this situation, this is a bad line to take. This is not the line that's recommended. This is not the position to put yourself within this lane. Is that weird? The reason why is because this lane is very narrow. And that's one of the things that wasn't mentioned when you guys were calling out things that you'd noticed about this specific street. But one of the things I noticed about this street is that it's very narrow. There's not enough room for a parked car, the open door of that parked car, space for a bicycle, the 3 feet of space, which is required by law that car drivers give bicycles when passing, and then space for the car. So if all those things aren't happening simultaneously, then I have some decisions to make. As a car driver, I should recognize that there's not enough room to pass and I should wait or change lanes to pass. And as a bike driver, the law says in these narrow lane situations, I'm supposed to ride right in the middle of the lane. This is intimidating. This is confusing. This doesn't come naturally, and I'm fully aware of that. The law says this is what you're supposed to do. And as I said before, I can talk about the law, and then I can also talk about what the real world looks like. The law says in a situation where the lane is too narrow, you should discourage unsafe passing by riding towards the middle of the lane. This is, as was highlighted by Cheyenne, not a street that has any specific bike facilities on it. There is no bike path, there is no bike lane. If there was a bike lane, I'd be in the bike lane. I don't have a bike lane here, I have a narrow street. And so because of that, your recommended position, the position that they're expecting you to take, the people who designed this street, I suppose, is right in the middle of that lane, discouraging that unsafe passing. People will feel like they can barely kind of sort of squeeze by if you're taking this right side position. And when they do, you got 6 inches between the side of your head and the back of their mirror. That's no good for anybody. So instead, discourage that unsafe passing by being in the middle of the lane. I don't like slowing people down. I don't like being slowed down. It's not fun for me when I'm driving a car. It's not fun for me when I'm riding a bike. I like to be able to go as fast as I want, whenever I want. Unfortunately, we can't always do that. In this situation with a narrow lane, am I saying that car drivers have to actually slow down and wait until the bicyclist moves out of the way? Yes. That's the way it works, unfortunately, I suppose. One of the nice things about route planning is, as a bicyclist, if I know that I'm going to be traveling on a lot of streets that have these narrow lanes that don't have any bike infrastructure, I can pick a different route. That's not something that Google Maps or Apple Maps necessarily is going to highlight. They're getting better about it, but we'll talk about utilizing that SANDAG bike map in order to get your route planned in a way that avoids these situations. But if you find yourself in them, just wanted to take the time to highlight that there is precedent for bicyclists being in the middle of the lane. Another reason you may find bicyclists in the middle of the lane, and another reason I would encourage you as a bicyclist to move yourself a little bit closer to the middle of the lane, especially at intersections, is to reduce the likelihood of one of the more common causes of car versus bike collisions, which is the right hook. And this is, the light is red even, I'm on a bicycle, I want to stay out of everybody's way, so I'm stopping way on the right side of the road. The light turns green, the car driver didn't see me at all, or assumes that I'm also turning right and turns right in front of me, and then we have the collision. With a green light, if I plan on going straight through this intersection, if I'm going straight through the intersection on the very far right side of the road, makes it less likely for people to see me and understand what I'm going to do next. I oftentimes will merge into the middle of that lane to let people know what's going on. And especially if the light is red, now I'm allowing space for car drivers who want to turn right on red to do so to my right. They have the space to do that. They're allowed to do that. If I'm stopped on the right side of the road, now I'm preventing people from turning right on red, and then nobody's happy about that. The light's red, they're not going anywhere anyway. After I get through the intersection, then I'll move off to the right if the lane is wide enough to share, and then everyone can move through space. But this is another example of why you may see bicyclists closer to the middle of the lane at intersections, and why that's probably, frankly, a good idea. It can help you communicate your destination. The other thing that can help you communicate your destination is choosing the correct lane for your destination. I know of a bunch of different ways to turn left. If you're finding yourself in a situation where you need to make a left turn, you have some options. One would be get off the bicycle, walk with your bicycle, hit the button, walk across the street, hit the button again, walk across the street, get back on your bicycle, and then turn left. That takes a long time. It's slow, it's inefficient, but if that's what you need to do to feel more comfortable, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. Another option to turn left would be to turn right and then make a U-turn when it's safe and then go through the intersection, and now you're turning left. Another option would be to go straight through the intersection and then make a right turn, go around the block, make another right turn, make another right turn, and now I'm going left by making 3 rights. Another option, and the one that's recommended, is choosing the lane which serves your destination. This would mean merging into that left turn lane. And then when you get your position, when you get your light, when you get your signal, you're making that left turn same as you would if you were in a car. So there are more than one way to do things. And knowing what all those options are and then making the decision based on what you feel most comfortable with, what is going to help other people know what you're going to do next, what's going to keep you legal, those are all important to know. So choose the lane which serves your destination and choose a position within that lane which indicates your destination. If I'm all the way on the right, people assume I'm turning right. If I'm in the middle of that lane, people don't assume I'm turning right. They assume I'm going straight through. So I can communicate my destination in a bunch of different ways. Let me jump over to, in the interest of time, laws. Every year they put out new traffic laws, new rules of the road exist, and no one necessarily knows what they mean because not everybody goes back to the DMV every year. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of the new ones for the last 2023, 2024, and 2025. It'll just take a second. The one I'll call your attention to here, this is a new law on the books. It's called the safe passing rule, or it's referred to as the safe passing rule. The most important part of this sentence is when safe. So what this is talking about is a reference to that 3-foot passing rule. As a bicyclist, if I'm riding my bike and someone in a car wants to pass me, they're required to give me 3 feet of space when passing. Oftentimes how that manifested itself previously was just kind of 2 wheels on one side of the lane and 2 wheels on the other, not really fully changing lanes. I'm just moving over just enough to pass. It makes the car driver ambiguous. It's hard to anticipate what they're going to do next. So the law is pretty simple. It's just saying that if you're planning on passing a bicyclist, you should fully change lanes in order to pass that bicyclist when safe. Multi-lane road, more than one lane in the same direction, fully changing lanes in order to pass. Seems pretty simple to me, but it's worth mentioning because not everybody knows. They have really started enforcing this daylighting rule in 2025. We've been talking about it for a couple of years now, but it's really kicking off in 2025. If you park right next to a crosswalk, if you park right next to a corner, even if that space right next to the crosswalk or that space right next to the corner is not painted red, then that's still a ticketable offense. You cannot park right up next to a crosswalk. Most of those situations, there is going to be a red paint on the ground to really make it clear. The reason for this is if someone's parked right next to the crosswalk, you as someone crossing the street know it's hard for you to see traffic. It's hard for the traffic to see you. At corners, same situation. Cars are parked right next to the corner. It's hard for you to see the traffic and the traffic to see you. So they've increased the red zone next to parking, next to crosswalks and next to intersections. So definitely something to be aware of. Here's one that's going to apply to you on Bike to Work, Bike Anywhere Day for sure. They've already done this in other cities and it's been standard for a long time. It's now coming to San Diego, and in this first part of this advanced pedestrian, leading pedestrian interval, you've probably already seen. They've rolled this out at a bunch of busier intersections over the last few years. It used to be that the light was red and the hand was red, and simultaneously the light would turn to green and the little person would pop up, beep, boop, beep, boop, and the cars would start moving at the same time that the pedestrians started moving. At busier intersections, they've instead made it so the light stays red and beep, boop, little pedestrian person pops up first. This allows pedestrians to get a little bit of a head start, reduces the likelihood of the right hook and the left cross. The new thing, and again, I was just in Washington, D.C., and every intersection has a leading pedestrian interval, and every intersection with that leading pedestrian interval has the following rule, which is that bike drivers are looking for that pedestrian interval to turn on. They're looking for that walking sign to turn on, because that walking sign indicates you as a bike are ready to go. You as a bike driver go when the pedestrian sign comes on. So if that pedestrian sign comes on 2 or 3 seconds before the light turns green, you get to go. This makes it easier for the car drivers to anticipate what you're going to do next. You're further out ahead. People that are turning left haven't even entered the intersection, but you're already halfway across the intersection or all the way across the intersection. So it separates the movements of car drivers and bike drivers, and you as a bike driver are looking to that pedestrian signal to tell you when to go. Some intersections will have bike-specific lights. You've seen those downtown, maybe, if you've been in the area. 4th, 5th, 6th, Beach, and J. All of them have bike-specific lights in certain situations. But without those, we've just got the pedestrian sign, and that's the thing that's going to tell you when to go. So definitely go when it's green, but if you'd like to, and if it's a situation where the intersection has been installed or updated with that leading pedestrian interval, you're looking for that pedestrian sign to tell you when to go. And then finally, for 2025, we haven't talked about e-bikes specifically yet, but we have a whole class specifically on e-bikes if you wanted to get into it. One of the things I hit pretty frequently in that class is that different classifications of e-bikes that exist. In California, it's based on speed, whereas in some other states, it's based on the wattage or the power of the motor. There are only 3 classifications of e-bikes: class 1, class 2, and class 3. It used to be that certain e-bike brands or manufacturers or types had the ability to switch between classifications, or sort of like sometimes be one and sometimes be the other. They've tried to eliminate that ambiguity, again, keep them predictable. So if your bike has a throttle, if it has the ability to interact with the motor using your thumb or your wrist or something other than your feet, then that's a class 2 bike. And if it's a class 2 e-bike, motor will not push you beyond 20 miles per hour. You can go faster than 20 if you're pedaling or if you're going downhill or whatever, but the motor stops pushing at 20 on class 2 e-bikes. And if it has a throttle, it's a class 2 e-bike. There are e-bikes that go up to 28 miles per hour. Those are class 3, and they do not have throttles. With that higher speed, you have to be 16 in order to use them. You have to have a helmet no matter what your age, and there's certain places they're not supposed to be ridden. Again, because of that, wanting to be near people that are moving at this relatively the same speed as you. So putting a 28 mile per hour class 3 e-bike on a bike path where everyone's going 5, 10 and walking their dogs, probably not recommended. So from now on, if it used to be that some of the e-bikes would be able to be class 2 mode sometimes, then you'd hit the right buttons, then it'd move into class 3 mode. They're not doing that anymore. So it's got to be one or the other. If you're planning on buying an e-bike, then I recommend, trying them out first. They all kind of work a little bit differently. The e-bikes that are being raffled off are from, I don't necessarily endorse any one brand over another, but I will say going to a place where you can bring the e-bike back if something goes wrong or if you have questions about it, buying from a physical store with a door is a good way to do things. Rad Power is great at that. And there are other bike shops in the area which are very friendly and would love to say hi to you, even if you leave your wallet at home the first time, just to check in. Okay, for Bike Anywhere Day specifically, you're going to be going from point A to point B using a bicycle. I wanted to remind folks of the fact that there's a bunch of different ways to do that. And while a lot of people are going to get on the bicycle at home and then get off the bicycle when they get to work, there are more than one way to do that. There's more than one way to get around with a bicycle. Combining the bicycle with other forms of transportation is absolutely encouraged. Buses in San Diego have space for 3 bikes on the front. Trolley has space for bicycles. Coaster has space for bicycles. Your car may have space for a bicycle. If you need to drive halfway and then ride the rest of the way, that's better than nothing. There's a bunch of different ways to get around. Doing it with another friend is a great way to encourage yourself to do it more often. I would recommend peer pressure when it comes to getting your coworkers signed up for this stuff as well. And then finally, practice. If you are not someone who's ever ridden your bike before to work before in your life, I don't necessarily recommend the very first time you do it to be at 7 a.m. On Thursday. depending on your commute, if it's not long, that may not be a big deal. But if you have the ability to, I would recommend practicing going halfway, going the whole way on the bike on the weekend before or something. Just you know, you want to prepare for any eventuality before it happens. Using Apple Maps and Google Maps is great. SANDAG has one of the best resources when it comes to route planning on a bicycle, which is the the SANDAG bike map. So this is the North County area. You can see a bunch of different colors for different types of facilities. This is more central upper across the county. Again, bunch of different colors. And then this is south and downtown. I'll pause here for just 1 second. You can see the key. So if this was a paper map, this is a representation of the paper map. Online, you can find the SANDAG bike map, and you can zoom in and zoom out and highlight the different types of bike infrastructure that exist. Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, and Class 4. There are some specific interesting things to notice. One is that there are some freeways where you're allowed to drive your bike on the shoulder. Probably not recommended for everyday usage, but in theory, it's possible. One of the other fun ones is bike boulevards. You can see up here. So the Mead Landis Bikeway, there's some specific areas which have a bunch of different facilities which make it more comfortable to ride your bike, although they're not one of the 4 official classifications of bike facilities, those being bike paths, bike lanes, bike routes, and cycle tracks. There's sort of zoom in inserts of high traffic areas. So around UCSD, there's a lot of these multi-use paths, and you can see where those are. Around downtown, as mentioned, 4th, 5th, 6th, Beach, and J all have separated cycling facilities. Separated bikeways are in that purple color. So those are fun. All this is to say, if I'm planning on going somewhere for the first time, if I'm planning my route from home to work, I want to know what my options are, and I want to know them quickly. And so Apple Maps and Google Maps have gotten pretty good about providing those bicycle directions. There's a little picture of a bicycle. You put your starting place, you put your ending place, you click the bicycle thing, and it'll oftentimes give you a couple options. Oftentimes, the options that it's showing you are focused on hills. So hills are obviously important, but the other thing that's pretty important is knowing the different types of facilities that exist on that path that you've taken. Maybe there is a specific bike path. Maybe there's a bike lane, maybe there's a bike route, maybe there's a cycle track. Maybe there isn't, but if I go an extra 2 or 3 miles, I've added on extra distance, but I've done so in order to get myself over to a separated facility or a place where I can feel a little bit more comfortable on a bicycle. It is oftentimes worth it to know what those different options are. So starting with this interface of Google Maps or Apple Maps, seeing what the different options are that it recommends, and then sort of cross-referencing that with the SANDAG bike map and seeing what the different options are that are along that route or close to that route, and then just clicking on the line and dragging it over to accommodate for your specific options. Using Street View is real helpful as well. Again, it's recommending that I take this turn over that turn, but why? It's not going to tell me why, but if I get down onto the Street View level and look at that specific intersection, sometimes I can get a clue. Sometimes if I think, well, it seems like this is a kind of busy intersection that's going to be really wide and has a bunch of lanes, I'm not really sure, then again, getting down onto the Street View level first to see what those options are is a great way to know what to expect beforehand. A mount on your handlebars that holds the phone there that's giving you those turn-by-turn directions is great. Memorizing it is fine, I suppose, if you're going short distances. Putting a Bluetooth speaker on your front basket and having it announce to everybody that you're turning left in 50 feet. That's a good way to get the directions as well. So you have some options. But again, combining Apple Maps with Google Maps in order to see the difference between the different types of bike facilities is great. What are the different types of bike facilities? I hear you saying. There are 4 classifications, as I mentioned. One is a bike path. That's a separated facility. This is the San Diego River Path. It ends in Dog Beach and Ocean Beach. It's the Pacific Ocean over there. And then if you turn this camera around and face the other direction, you can take this separated path all the way to SDSU and beyond. There's a couple intersections or places where you may interact with car traffic, but by definition, there is no car traffic on a bike path. There's also people walking dogs and rollerbladers and things. That's still something to look out for. But again, if I don't probably work on one end and live on the other end, but if I found myself over to this bike path and it got me generally pointed in the direction that I needed to go, it may be worth it to add on a little bit of time in order to get to that separated facility. Bike lanes are sort of not separated. I mean, it's just paint that separates the travel lane from the bike specific travel lane. Sometimes there's a bit of a buffer on one side or the other. Sometimes it's a buffer in between where the main travel lane is and where the bike lane is. Sometimes it's a buffer in between where the parking is and where the bike lane is. Sometimes it's a buffer on both sides. Car drivers are still required to give 3 feet of space when passing a bicyclist, even when they're in the bike lane, because it still feels the same whether there's a piece of paint in between where the car is and where the bike is or not. You as a bike driver are required to ride in the bike lane if the bike lane exists. However, there's a bunch of different reasons why you should leave that bike lane. If the bike lane is parked so close to parked cars that you can't get around where the open car door would be, then you'd leave the bike lane in order to avoid that. Trees, debris, trash, passing someone that's slower. And if I need to turn left, I'm not going to do it from the right side of the road. I'm going to merge out of that bike lane and then make my left turn from the left-hand turn lane. So it's a good indicator of where you're supposed to be, but there's any number of reasons why you could leave. Bike route is one of the more common options you'll see on that map. It's unique because there isn't really anything on the road. All it is a designation on the map. Sometimes there's signs, or there often are signs that say that it is a bike route for some reason. All this is indicating is that this is a place that people usually ride bikes. It's sometimes indicating it's better than a parallel street for some reason. It's more direct, it's wider, traffic is slower, whatever. It aims to be a self-fulfilling prophecy in that if I tell people that they should ride bikes here more, then more people ride bikes there. And if more people ride bikes there, then people get more comfortable riding bikes there. People driving cars expect to see people riding bikes there more, and it gets better for everybody. That said, there's nothing on the street which makes it separated. There's nothing on the street that indicates anything about it being special for bikes other than the specific sign. Sometimes it'll have signs, directional arrows. So like you can see, like, downtown is this way, just reminding you that you're probably where you're supposed to be. It's sort of the opposite of the cycle track. So these are both pictures of downtown San Diego. This is J Street. This is where the first cycle track of this type was put in. But since then, we've seen them all over the place in North County, through North Park, and again through downtown. Its distinguishing characteristic is its separated facility. So there are barriers, bollards, cones, sometimes even car parking in between where the cars drive and where the bikes drive. This is great for a number of reasons. I don't have to get stressed out about my speed compared to the speed of traffic behind me. I'm doing my own thing. At intersections, I'm still definitely being extra aware of the car traffic around me. A car that wanted to turn right across a cycle track would need to look behind them to see if there's any approaching bicycles. Cars are required by law to turn right from as far right of the road as practicable, and they can't always merge before turning when the cycle track is involved. So this is where you will see those bike-specific lights. But without those, it's definitely a good idea to be extra aware at intersections to make sure that you're communicating with the car traffic around you. And then finally, the option that you won't see on the bike map, but is good to know about, is just simply neighborhood streets. So instead of taking Mira Mesa Boulevard, instead of taking University, instead of taking the busier multi-lane streets, even though if I'm allowed to use those, maybe instead I go 1 or 2 blocks over into the neighborhood, and now I got wider streets. I have streets with fewer traffic lights. I got a lower volume of traffic, and that's something that can help me be more comfortable when I'm getting from my home to work, is avoiding those busier avenues on a car, I'm just thinking about how do I get to the freeway fastest. On a bike, I have all these other options. And so it's kind of nice to know what those are. All right, let me talk about this symbol, and then we'll move into our last couple of slides, and then we'll go to questions. So this symbol is called a shero. It's a portmanteau. It's a combination of the word share and arrow. It is not an arrow. It is, by definition, not an arrow. An arrow has a line that comes out of the bottom, which indicates a direction. This is not a symbol which indicates direction. All this indicates is that the lane is not wide enough to share side by side with a car. On any lane that is not wide enough to share side by side with a car, you'll see this symbol painted down. It indicates that the lane is too narrow to share side by side with a car. If that's the case, I, as a bike driver, am encouraged to ride right down the middle of that lane. Because if I'm on the right-hand edge, people will feel like they can barely kind of sort of squeeze by. And then especially with car parking, I'm going to be in a situation where I need to avoid the door. So on a lane that's too narrow to share, you're encouraged to ride towards the middle of the lane. In this situation, it's a single lane in either direction. So a car doesn't have the ability to cross the double yellow line just to pass a slower moving person in front of them. So they're going to have to wait. Not fun for me, not fun for you. When it's safe, absolutely, I, as a bike driver, I'm going to move off to the side and allow folks to pass, but I'm not going to do it when it's unsafe. As a car driver, if I see this symbol and there's a bicycle somewhere in the lane, I should wait until I can fully change lanes in order to pass that bicyclist, because there isn't enough room for both a car and a bike to be side by side. Here's a zoomed in, although still low res, version of the picture in the previous slide. This is what the street used to look like in Encinitas. There was sort of a bike path over here. It ended in a wall. There's sort of a shoulder here, not necessarily a great place to ride your bicycle. And then we had the travel lane with the shero symbol in it. This is indicating that I, as a bicyclist, am supposed to ride right in the middle of this lane. This was not super fun or comfortable for a lot of folks, so they changed everything, ripped it all out, and this is what it looks like now. So now we've got green paint in a bike lane. I've got green paint indicating that this is an intersection where there may be cars crossing across. I've got a dedicated lane for travel here. Up ahead, I've got a roundabout, but you can see the movements have been separated. And so there's space specifically for cars and space specifically for bikes. If there's a bike lane, then you're required to use the bike lane. Where there is not a bike lane is in a roundabout. And up ahead here, we have roundabouts. This is a roundabout. They're fun, they're good, they help, they make it so, excuse me, you don't have to stop. A stop sign means you have to stop. A red light means you have to stop. A roundabout means you don't have to stop. There are three basic rules when it comes to using roundabouts, and they're the same for cars and bicycles. They are: traffic in the roundabout never stops. If you're in the roundabout, you keep moving no matter what. If someone is starting to approach and you're in the roundabout, you keep on moving. If that person that's approaching is a car, you keep on moving. If that person that's approaching is a bike, you keep on moving. The whole function of a roundabout is that traffic in the roundabout never stops. And traffic waiting to enter the roundabout yields to traffic in the roundabout. So if I'm approaching and I see someone in the roundabout, I'm going to wait until I know for sure where they're going and that they're out of the way, and then I'll enter the roundabout. And then finally, there are no bike lanes in roundabouts. Each roundabout that you see is going to be a single lane in a single direction. And that's for good reason. If I was on a bike lane and I wanted to keep going straight across and someone was in the other lane and they wanted to leave the roundabout, then we'd have an interaction here, and that's not good for anybody. So instead, the bike lane that exists before and after the intersection will go away before the roundabout. You'll see the shero symbol painted, which means that you're going to take that middle of the lane. And then through that roundabout, again, you're in the middle of the lane just like everybody else. So there's no passing that ever happens in a roundabout. When you get to the spot where you're ready to get out, you get out, and then you're back into that bike lane again. But it's important to remember, traffic in the roundabout never stops. Traffic waiting to enter the roundabout yields to traffic in the roundabout, and that there are no bike lanes in roundabouts, so you're going to be in single file line. I talked about this already, but just to restate, it's illegal to ride your bike on the sidewalk in a business district, therefore technically legal in residential areas. Never a good idea, never something that's recommended. Car drivers that leave driveways and plan on turning right are not looking to the right, they're looking to the left. They're looking for oncoming traffic. So if you're coming from the wrong side of the road, if you're coming on the sidewalk, it's harder for them to see you. So not necessarily something that's ever recommended, regardless of what the law says. Okay, let me blow through these in the interest of time. So, not everybody that drives a car knows how to fix a flat tire in their car, but that doesn't stop them from driving a car. I would argue same concept for driving a bicycle. Not everybody that drives a bicycle necessarily knows how to patch a hole in their tire. That's okay, as long as you know what your options are. Where's the nearest bike shop along this route? Where's the nearest bus stop along this route? Locking the bike to a pole and then calling a lift and then coming back to it later. Calling a lift that's one of the big ones that's like a van and then putting your bike in the trunk of the car. That's an option. Calling a friend. There's a bunch of different ways to do things. One is bring a spare tube and know how to swap the tube out. One is bring a patch kit, know how to change to fix the flat. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. We can teach classes about how to fix flat tires. I'm not going to do that today, but just be aware of the fact that you have options. Calling a friend, calling somebody else, like a Lyft or an Uber, the bus stop. There's a bunch of different ways to get around. So just know what those options are. And then finally, bike locks. The front wheel of your bike is probably pretty easy to take off. So if you only lock the front wheel, you'll only have a front wheel when you get back. No lock is perfect. So definitely have a lock, use it on your bicycle, but then also do things to make your bike less desirable. E-bikes, take the battery off. I know people that'll take the wheel off and then lock the bike up out front on the sidewalk, bring the wheel inside. So now you got a front wheel at your desk and a bike with only one wheel outside. Who's going to steal a bike with only one wheel? Maybe somebody, but it's less likely than another. The seat will come off. A combination of a U-style lock with a chain lock is a good way to do things. Having more than one point of access. If someone breaks one, then they still got to break the other one. Those are good ways to do it. There's no such thing as a perfect lock. So secure bike parking is great. If your work offers it, know where the bike cage is, know where the bike lockers are, and use those. If not, can you bring your bike inside? Maybe that's an option. If you are going to lock it up outside, make it less desirable than another bike. Okay, and then finally, helmets. If you're under the age of 18, you're required by law to have a helmet on your head. If you are over the age of 18, you get to do all kinds of crazy things according to the law. If you're on a bike ride with us, you're required to have a helmet on. It's a good idea no matter what your age. It works the same way as a seatbelt in that oftentimes it's just kind of there, but when you need it, you're glad you have it because you don't have enough time to put it on before you need it. Find the style that you like. If that needs to be a Hello Kitty helmet or a Minions helmet or whatever, get the style that you like because it's only going to work if you wear it, and you're only going to wear it if you like it. You're also only going to wear it if it's comfortable. About 2 fingers worth of space underneath the chin, making sure it's level, so it's protecting both your forehead and the back of your head. About 2 fingers worth of space above the eyebrows. There's a child here in this picture that is wearing the helmet incorrectly. I don't know if that's why he's getting the ticket or not. But that helmet is way too far back on the head. If this person fell forward, the first thing to hit the ground would be their face. That's bad. A level helmet at about 2 fingers above the eyebrows is going to protect the front, back, top, and sides of your head. So a helmet that you like, a helmet that's worn properly, is good for a bunch of different reasons. Final slide, communication. So as I mentioned, there's a bunch of different ways to communicate where you're about to go. I save this for the end because I get questions about hand signals a lot. And the issue is, okay, I can teach you what this specific thing means, but then you know it and I know it, but not necessarily everybody else knows it. So, sorry, Sherry. Not sure why you stopped being able to view slides. If everybody else can see them, I'll keep on moving. I will record the presentation and make it available afterwards as well. So knowing what the specific signals are is good. Communication is the most important part, and that's why the hand signals exist. The hand signals exist in order to communicate. There's a bunch of different ways to communicate. Eye contact is communication, right? Left hand turn, hand signals, right hand turn, hand signals. Those are communication. Just waving at somebody is communication. My voice is communication. The bell is communication. If I am in a left-hand turn lane, then I'm communicating that I'm going to turn left. If I look behind me and make eye contact with the car driver and then kind of wave my hand in a silly way, they know something is going to be happening over there, even if it's not an official hand signal. So communication is great. Say hello to everybody, wave to everybody, make eye contact with everybody. Use the hand signals if you'd like. Communication before something happens is absolutely a good thing to do. So know the signals, sure, communicate in a way that makes sense to everybody. And that's the thing that's going to keep everybody happy and safe. So I wanted to leave a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. As discussed previously, Bike Anywhere Day is on Thursday, May 15th, early morning. I highly recommend bringing a friend, finding somebody else to help out, and signing up for registering ahead of time in order to get yourself for those sweepstakes to win that bicycle. I'll leave this slide up for a second while you're thinking of questions. Thank you, Carly. Sorry you have to run. If you would, just for the sake of conversation, even if you don't have a specific question, can you imagine what a good question would be like, and put that in the chat? I'd love to just answer one or two. It makes me feel a little bit more involved with everybody. Just give me one or two questions, and then we can close this out. While you're thinking of those, go ahead and scan that QR code. I'll also make sure and send it to folks afterwards. We'll put it in the chat as well. If you have, you know, I would say 90 seconds, you could probably get through that presentation without too much trouble. But yeah, give me a question. Give me one question. Anything related to bicycles at all? Anything related to Bike Anywhere Day at all? If not, no, I'm not even going to say if not. I need one. You got to give me one. Give me one question about anything related to bikes or Bike Anywhere Day at all. Just one. I answered every single thing you ever wanted to know about Bike Anywhere Day. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that possible? Anita, I've never been to Bike Anywhere Day. I would have loved to see some pictures or something that shows what it's like. Have any? The pictures that I would show that shows what Bike Anywhere Day is like are the same as the pictures of anybody else riding a bike. Depending on where you are, maybe there's just going to be one or two other people on the road. Depending on where you are, maybe there's going to be a whole bunch of other people on the road. This initial photo of the ride, this is a ride we did in May. This isn't on Bike to Work Day itself, but Bike Anywhere Day, excuse me, looks the same as riding your bike to work any other day, largely. The thing that makes it different is those specific pit stops. Those pit stops also can vary a lot in the way they look. So here's examples of a couple different pit stops that are specific to Bike Anywhere Day that have occurred in previous years. I'm in two of these photos. Here is me with a cowboy hat on, and here is me in a cool robot suit being a DJ. There are as much variety in the stations as there are different stations. They'll sometimes have themes, they'll sometimes give away different items, but check out the pit stop map, find as many of those as you can that are close to your route, and check out as many of them as you can. I know Port of San Diego downtown is supposedly giving away breakfast burritos. We will have fresh fruit, and ours is going to be disco themed. There's a luau themed one up the road. So this is what you can expect to see at the pit stop, something like this: a tent, a table, t-shirts to give away, a sign-in sheet, maybe activities to do, photo opportunities, that kind of thing. But in between that, it's you on your bike riding, hopefully with a friend. If you've invited someone specific, then that's what it'll look like. And then, yeah, thank you, Melina. Also on the SANDAG webpage for Bike Anywhere Day, you can find some photos of previous years. This has been happening for a long time in San Diego and across the United States and the rest of the world as well. Sonia, I'd like to know if there are groups that bike commute to work together regularly. There could be at your specific workplace, in the same way that there's van pool or commuter pool or things like that. Then getting on a sort of bike train is absolutely something that larger corporations have done. In smaller situations, the best place I know of to meet other people that also ride bikes is oftentimes your local bike shop. So even if you're not planning on buying anything, going into that specific shop, they'll have flyers for different rides that happen. Oftentimes those rides aren't necessarily from home to work. But there are groups of people that ride bikes regularly on weekends and things, and those are the people to get to know. And then it turns out one of them kind of lives near you and kind of works near you as well. And then those are your friends that you're using to get to where you need to go. So it depends on the workplace, obviously. Depends on the general area that you work in, the general area that you live. But I'd be willing to bet you're not the only person in your neighborhood that's going to be riding bikes in the same general direction. So posting about that on social media, saying you need a bike buddy is absolutely something that I've seen people do. There's a bunch of different ways to find friends. And going to your local bike shop is one of the ways to do it, but there's plenty of other ones. Thank you, Sonia. Okay, with that, I'm happy to finish just a few minutes early, if that's okay with everybody. Thank you all for being here. The class is being recorded, and so I'll see about making that available. But otherwise, if you have more information or more questions, please don't hesitate to check out the Bike Anywhere Day page. Send me a message. I'm Kevin at sdbikecoalition.org. Check out our website, sdbikecoalition.org. to find information about all kinds of different rides, classes, events, and other things that we put on and that SANDAG puts on as well. So thank you all for being here. I'll leave it there and we'll see you on the road. Happy Bike Anywhere Day. Yay. Thanks so much, guys.